Next on the Rob Breckenridge Show, those who believe 9/11 was a conspiracy and those who debunk those claims. Breaking news when it happens. Next scheduled news at 8:30 from the QR77 News Center. I'm Jasmine Griffith.
Calgary Stories, Calgary Perspective. This is the Rob Breckenridge Show on CHQR. Call in with your views. Toll free at 1-800-563-7770. The Rob Breckenridge Show on Calgary's foremost talk radio station, AM 770, and online at am770chqr.com.
All right, welcome to this hour of the program, Rob Breckenridge to you. Don't forget the telephone number. You might want it, 403-974-TALK. 974-8255. Toll free, it is 1-800-563-7770. And of course, don't forget our website, am770chqr.com. Let's get right to it. Tomorrow, of course, is September 11th, the 8th anniversary of the attacks of September 11th. Now, it's been maybe easy to forget, easier these days to forget or overlook the fact that there are those who still believe, or cling to the belief, that it was not terrorists who attacked the United States, but the United States government, which orchestrated the attacks to make it look like a terrorist attack, to justify wars and all sorts of things. This was in the news recently, I guess. Van Jones, an Obama appointee in the U.S., resigned after it was revealed, among other things, that he had signed a 9/11 truther petition. We've talked about some of these issues on the program before. We've got a debate for you on the program this evening. Now, a few years ago, I guess, when this truth movement sort of reached its heyday, its apex, much of that had to do with the film Loose Change. Set up in response to that was the website Screw Loose Change. On the line with us, we've got filmmaker Dylan Avery. He's responsible for the Loose Change movie, including, I guess, the most recent version, Loose Change 9/11, An American Coup. Dylan, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
We've also got with us Pat Curley, one half of the team at the website Screw Loose Change, screwloosechange.blogspot.com. Pat, welcome back to the program.
Hi, Rob. Always a privilege to talk to you and your listeners.
All right, and I'm sure you two will get into it, but let's put it to Dylan first of all. Explain what's different now, because we're still talking about the same film that was released a few years ago. What now is Loose Change, 9/11, An American Coup?
Well, Rob, first and foremost, I'd like to take this opportunity to point out that both Loose Change and the 9/11 Truth Movement and all of the efforts that have spurned from it probably would not exist if the 9/11 Commission had not failed so blatantly in its task in the first place. You have a commission that was comprised mostly of D.C. insiders. You have Henry Kissinger being appointed to the chairman initially before public outcry led to him to resign. You had the Family Steering Committee criticizing the commission at every turn, saying that Executive Director Philip Zelikow needed to resign due to his conflicts of interest. The 9/11 Commission report is absolutely inadequate, and a lot of the people that looked to the commission to solve a lot of the issues that they had with 9/11 only ended up having more questions due to the complete lack of investigation on the part of the commission. So I say all this just to point out to you and to Pat and anybody listening that this movement exists because the 9/11 Commission did not.
Okay, but Dylan, I didn't ask you about the commission. I'm asking you about this film. You released Loose Change a few years ago. You've re-released it several times now, I believe. What's different about this movie?
I understand that. I just wanted to point out the whole reason that Loose Change even exists in the first place is because the commission.
Well, I'm sure we'll get into all of that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just had a statement to make. That being said, the thing that's different about this film, one of the big things, is that we have Daniel Sunjata as a narrator. Because one of the chief criticisms that's always been of Loose Change is my narration, which I've never really wanted to be the narrator in the first place. So that's one of the main differences with this film is the addition of Daniel Sunjata. One of the second changes with this film is we have a legitimate mainstream distributor who's getting it into stores worldwide. And one of the best aspects of this new film, I feel, is that we have an opportunity to financially give to the first responders and family members through a legitimate, legal, non-profit organization.
All right, let's go to Pat. Pat, you've seen all versions of this film, including the latest. Is anything new, anything different here?
I think he's actually gone back a little bit more to the second film, Loose Change 2, at least in the Pentagon portion. Now, a lot of the Pentagon portion is the same as in
back to no plane hit the Pentagon, I think the main thing is, A, we have very little to prove that Flight 77 is what struck the Pentagon in the first place. And second, that, according to Norman Minetta's testimony, which has been confirmed across the board by himself more than one occasion, the building never should have been hit in the first place. And ultimately, in the new film American Coup, yes, we do cover that aspect of the Pentagon attack, only because if we didn't, we would have been criticized left and right for leaving it out. But again, the main point of the Pentagon is that it shouldn't have been struck at all.
Now, what's the film implying? What do you make of those comments?
Well, there are a couple of things that I noticed. Number one, Dylan makes a point of highlighting the fact that a lot of the passengers on the plane were either members of the Defense Department or the defense contractors or United Airlines or, et cetera. People who, I think the implication there is kind of that these people were in on the plot or something, and so, it's not surprising that they were on this plane that did not fly into the Pentagon, that is, at least in theory, somewhere out there, somewhere that is not that did not fly into the Pentagon. And I think that that in particular kind of sticks in my craw, because it kind of says, here we are, he's claiming that he is doing this for the families, and yet there are some families, obviously the families of a lot of those people on Flight 77, that he's not quite so sympathetic for.
That's not true at all. I'm not implying that those people were involved in the plot at all, and that's another example of you taking a part of Loose Change and saying that it means one thing and demonizing me with it. I haven't said that at all in the films. I've never blatantly said that. The only thing I'm pointing out is, A, the simple fact that all 4 of the planes involved on that day had a 30% average capacity, which is unprecedented for a Tuesday morning. And second, out of that 30% on 77 was a large amount of people in the defense industry. That's all I'm saying, Pat. And again, this is another...
What does that mean? What does that mean,
Those were not unprecedented.
No, it was. I mean, you had the Washington Post themselves saying that Flight 77 was unusually light on passengers for a Tuesday morning. All 4 of the planes averaged out at 30%.
And I think, as I recall, that when they went back and looked at the last 3 months, all but one of the planes had a lower flight load at one point during those 3 months on a Tuesday.
Well, again, Pat, the main thing to point out here is that I'm not implying that any of those people were involved.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt on that. Dylan, all right. Well, let's give you the opportunity then. If it's not a passenger load on Flight 77, give us an example of what you feel is strong evidence, incontrovertible evidence of an inside job.
Well, first of all, I'm hesitant to use the phrase inside job because that tends to be a very alienating phrase. I've tried to avoid using it. I mean, if anything, it was a very small rogue element within the United States government. I mean, to say the government did it implies...
All right, the rogue elements then.
No, I understand.
Okay.
I'm just trying to clarify, that's all. In terms of an inside job, it's hard to find incontrovertible evidence because a lot of it has either been destroyed, suppressed, or never released to the public. But I know it's interesting. You have things like Senator Bob Graham claiming that foreign governments were involved in financing 9/11, and then you have the commissioner report coming flat out and saying that there was no financial assistance from foreign governments or institutions. I mean, members of the commission openly said that they found financing tracing back to Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, and the final report says that that is of no... They say it's of no significance. Where these guys got their money is not significant. That's a huge problem. And again, that happened across the board with the commission, where you had things coming out, and later on, when the report came out, they didn't exist. So, again, it's... I could talk all night about conflicts of interest with the commission report and things that they said.
Okay, but we don't